Adam Mazo. I live here in JP, Massachusetts Territory. I'm Ashkenazi Jewish. I'm part of a 4-person producing team for Reciprocity Project. And it was 4 of the films that you saw this evening that were up there that said Reciprocity Project at the end, you might have noticed. And it started during the pandemic, when many of us noticed how when we slowed down and we stopped working the earth so hard that the earth healed itself. And that inspired this idea of what stories of reciprocity could look like from different indigenous communities. We made them the first season. This is part of the second season that you saw tonight. In the first season, all the films were made within the communities during the pandemic. So nobody was really traveling anywhere, and it was all about just trying to move resources into the communities to build up filmmaking capacity. And the prompt was just, what does reciprocity look like in your community? In season 2, that was the same prompt, and we also had a theme of return, as you saw a little bit with the second film in this series, Enchukonoto, The Return by Lysa Mali, who's a Maasai filmmaker, the first female Maasai filmmaker. I guess I can go into all the other films if you like, but the point of the project is really to lift up stories from Indigenous communities by Indigenous directors in the places where they are, and to really offer solutions for climate change, offer paths forward by looking to traditions and ways of being and ways of knowing that have been on this planet for long before colonizers like me came to these lands. So it's a co-production of the organization that I co-founded, Upstander Project, which is based here in Boston. We make films and learning resources to try to amplify hidden voices, and hope that you'll watch all the other films as well. There's a whole lot more on reciprocity.org. You can see the season 1 films, and the season 2 films have just started premiering at festivals, so those will be coming out soon if you want to join the mailing list and follow on social and that sort of thing.
You speak about the hidden kind of tribes, the communities that maybe are not well known. How did you get connected to these particular communities, and what was that process like, even kind of bridging that gap to share what it was that your goal was?
Sure. So the films that you saw tonight, I mentioned Enchukonoto, The Return, and then there was Datnanoku by Justin Deegan from the Mandan Hidatsa Arikara Nation, and there was Denjita Wakwe by Gachajuni Fox from Mohawk Nation in Akwesasne, and then there was From God to Man by Lansana Mansare in Sierra Leone. And many of the folks have gone through various fellowship programs that were created by one of my producing colleagues, Tracy Rector. So a lot of those folks, that's the way that we connected with them, is they got a fellowship, they worked on other films, and we approached them and asked if they wanted to make a film about reciprocity. Barmy Boyd, Lansana Mansare, the one about the palm wine in Sierra Leone. I had met him at the Camden International Film Festival a few years ago. He made a stunning film, which you should look up, called Survivors, that aired on PBS and was about was made during the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone, and he risked his life and his team risked their lives to make a film about how people survived that pandemic back in 2018. Really wonderful film, and so I got the opportunity to meet him, and we were talking about wanting to bring forward stories to help people understand that Indigenous people are all over the globe, and so he graciously agreed to do this film and give us those beautiful images of the palm wine and climbing the palm tree. That's one of those images that just sticks with me forever, as we see that man climbing in a way that I could never do to the top of that tree. And so it was really just about helping people understand that there are Indigenous people everywhere, and that there are stories to be told and witnessed, and also, like with Lysa's story with Enchukonoto, that there are lots of stories about Maasai people, but Lysa is the first female Maasai filmmaker, period. And so we felt it was really important to bring forward the stories from her perspective and talk about, as she says, not what the camera takes, but what the camera can give.
Thank you for that. Thank you for highlighting that. I definitely wanted to try that palm wine when they were drinking. I'd love to take some questions from the audience, if anybody has some questions for our filmmaker.
So how long did it take to shoot each project? Was it like a couple of weeks, or was it just a weekend time?
long did it take to film each project? It was a bit of a range. You saw maybe, you might have noticed when with Denji Wakwe, the film where they're making the pots and collecting the maple syrup, that film was made over all the seasons. So they weren't shooting year round, but they very intentionally, the director, Gachajuni Fox, wanted to capture all the seasons and kind of the rhythms of the seasons. So she was filming over the course of a year. Some of the other films were made in relatively short period of time, just a few days or a couple of weeks. We, as producers, supported a lot of pre-production kind of planning so that there could, in the communities where it's harder to, like Barmy Boy in From God to Man, where they really needed to kind of film it all at once, really trying to plan things out and make sure that it could be a small number of days. So yeah, some were just a few days of shooting, and others were several days scattered over the course of a year, just kind of arranged depending on what suited the filmmakers. Because there were a number of them. You saw two of them were going back to communities where they don't live, but where they're from. There were a number of there's 3 other films that are part of season 2 that you didn't see tonight that hopefully you'll find and check out. And some of those are made within communities where the filmmakers live, and others are people returning to communities. So the ones where people were returning were much more pre-production and shorter filming periods, and some of the other ones could happen over a longer period because they were done in the places where people live. Thank you.
Well, I'll let you hang up with that. I'll use my future projections voice. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Do the the people who are filming, do they submit proposals to you, or do you go looking for people, or submit to communities, or?
Sure. This time around it was all commissioned, so we didn't have the capacity to kind of do an open call and have people submit. So we were connecting with people that we knew or colleagues of colleagues who could point us to particular people who had some filmmaking experience. And we also felt like it was important. We tried to have a mixture, a range of these. Some are first-time filmmakers, and some are more experienced, and some are somewhere in between. And so we really wanted to be able to have that mixture so that we knew that some films would get completed, hopefully, and fortunately, actually all of the ones that we started this season did get completed. But there is reality that sometimes films don't get finished. And it was great that we did have some first-time filmmakers in this group, like Justin Deegan, Nanoku. He's a photographer, but this is his first film that you saw tonight, the one about the Missouri River.
Sure.
Were the films all seen by the people who were in them, and what were those showings like?
Oh yeah, were the films seen by all the people that were in them? So we're pretty early in the screening process. The films premiered at the Maoriland Film Festival in March in Aotearoa, also known as New Zealand, and almost all the filmmakers were there. And as you noticed, some of the filmmakers are in the films, like Lysa and Barmy. And we're working on setting up screenings in all the communities. Some of them have already done screenings. We all went to Hakozasne in upstate New York and showed Denji Wakwe, the film that you saw this evening, as well as From God to Man. That's definitely a key goal of the project, is to make sure that the films are serving the communities and sharing them with people in the communities. And the filmmakers also have taken them, for example, with Jessica Shenandoah, who's the featured participant in Denji Wakwe. Gachajuni went and took that to her because she just had a baby a few months ago and showed her the film. So that's incredibly important to us. That a huge part of the project is making sure that the communities benefit from these films and that it serves them. That's the number one priority in this work.
Any other questions from the audience? Thank you again, Adam. Thank you so much for your submission.
Thank you for your question. I think it's great and very important that we highlight. A lot of times we go and take stories from people, and it's important to show them how we're depicting those stories out there. So thank you for that, and thank you for the work in bringing those films back to the community. Thank you all for coming again tonight. We still have days left for the festival. We're here until Friday, some at the MFA, still some at Northeastern, some at Hibernian Hall. So please do take a look. We've got some great features, shorts, and docs that we're showing out, as well as some hangouts after, if you guys are still feeling up to it. So thank you again for coming tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening.